Hi, my name is Gene Montrestelli, and the video you are about to watch is a recording from the 24 Hours of Tapping, which is an event that is held annually to support the Peaceful Heart Network. If you appreciate or learn anything from this video, the easiest way for you to say thank you is to support the work of the Peaceful Heart Network, who has worked with over 300,000 migrants, immigrants, prisoners, folks in disaster areas by bringing tapping to them. As you watch the video, across the bottom, you will see a link where you can support their amazing work. And I hope you enjoy this conversation. Lisa is a certified clinical EFT and quantum EFT practitioner who gently guides others through the emotional terrain of grief, loss, and life's deep challenges. Drawing on her own lived experience of heartbreak, healing, and transformation, Lisa brings a compassionate and grounded presence to her work. Her approach is rooted in the belief that even after the hardest times, healing is possible, and that no one should have to walk this path alone. Please welcome to the virtual stage, Lisa. Hello.
Oh, hello, Jean. Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Yes.
Excellent. You are on the other side of the world, and you are in the sunshine of a new day as sun is setting here on the East Coast.
That's right. I'm in your future. For many people here, it's Saturday morning or Saturday lunchtime here for me. So
excellent. Awesome. So one of the things that I have been doing with almost every conversation, just because I like to get a jumping off point, and we mentioned a little bit in your bio, but what is it that drew you to not just finding tools to help yourself navigate this, but what drew you to a place of wanting to share how to navigate this? You and I got to have a great conversation ahead of time. I can't wait to talk about grief, because you and I have really, really similar dispositions about this, and I can't wait to share it. But like, what, just for our audience, where is your heart and your connection? Why is this something that you want to be sharing with others?
It's a great question. I guess, like many, I started with my own personal journey, my own personal experience of experiencing loss and grief a number of times. And out of that, I learned that grief doesn't show up the way I thought it would.
Yeah.
I learned that people can be well-meaning but have mistimed or throw in comments that actually hurt more than they help, and they certainly weren't doing it to do that. And I also learned that tapping was a really useful tool to help me navigate that personally. And for some of the bigger traumas, because I've had a couple that were I would class as trauma, I got outside help from other practitioners to help me process those bits I just couldn't get to myself. So it's not an area that everybody wants to work in, but what I see it as really sacred work, actually. I also work with clients who are in recovery from addiction. So a lot of them are using substances to cope with trauma, with grief, unresolved grief. It's all in their body, and it's just a coping strategy that they've turned to try and get some relief. And because I'm a quantum EFT practitioner as well, so that's using EFT tapping for the soul. So that actually starts to open up a whole another realm, if you like, of where grief can be held in the body.
Yeah. So one of the things that I wanted to latch on to, just kind of as a jumping off point in our conversation, is you mentioned the misperceptions you had about the grieving process. And so I would love for you to talk about what were the perceptions that you had? What was it like trying to navigate it with those, what you later learned were misperceptions, and what are the perceptions that you, you don't have to answer all of that all at once, but like, that's where I'd like to go initially, because I find that statement really, really fascinating, where it was like, this was hard, and then this was hard because I didn't actually understand the terrain I was walking into. So what was kind of that misperception? Where did that come from?
Oh, yeah, thank you. I mean, they're great questions. I think the biggest one was I thought grief was tears. And actually, I didn't have a lot of tears. What I did have was I had a lot of body sensations. I got all over pins and needles from one of the losses that I had, and I thought I had multiple sclerosis, which I didn't, but it was just my body getting rid of the stress and the adrenaline. And one thing that I've found really unhelpful, and I know it's a model that has been used, is people talking about the stages of grief.
Yeah.
And actually, that's a misnomer, because Elizabeth Kubler-Ross did not design her research. She didn't put that together for the people, for the bereaved. Actually, she did that for the people who are dying. But it's a model that was adapted, picked up in the 70s and 80s, and it's still ingrained today. And I feel like what it can do is set people up for, I'm supposed to go through these 5 stages of grief, like it's a linear thing, but grief is really messy, and it doesn't follow any pattern, and it ebbs and flows. I could be all right one moment and then I wouldn't be all right, so it set me up for, I probably should have moved on from this. So in the Western culture, where I don't feel we generally learn how to deal with grief, or I feel like we get busy too early.
Yeah.
So we don't allow what's there to just be, without feeling like we need to be doing something with it.
Yeah.
So that's just off the top of my head.
And grief is so just consuming in such a different way. One of the kind of dispositional changes that I've gone through is like, grief is a recognition that there is a hole in my life. Like something was there and is now gone. And no amount of tapping or no amount of any transformational tool is ever going to fill that hole. And that can be daunting if we're not expanding the canvas and doing a lot of stuff that we're going to talk about. And so I can understand, because we don't have a lot of we're not given the vocabulary to have these conversations around it, how seductive having a 5-step process can be. Because if I don't have the vocabulary to talk about it, I at least have a little roadmap that I can follow. And then I've just been handed a roadmap that is, it's not a roadmap. It looks like a roadmap. It functions like a roadmap, and that's not what's going on, which then gives us the opportunity to feel like I'm grieving wrong, or I am stuck, or I am broken, or something else is going on inside of that. And so, like, I love the fact that we're just starting from this place of I love the fact you use the word messy. Like we're so bad at giving ourselves permission to allow something to be messy. I am together, and I have these skills, and I can navigate the world. Even the hard things, they'll be hard, but they're not going to be hard for me because I have the skills. And like, just that liberation and that freedom, I think, is such a lovely thing to be giving people as they're going into that process.
I did extra training in grief. So I'm not a grief counselor, but I became so interested that I did some extra study in grief. And I know there are newer models now that are more encompassing of it being a process. And yes, I think the allowing ourselves to just be with what is, and that we don't have to have the answers. How I use EFT with my clients is very much holding that safe space. So how I use tapping is not to fix them. It's not to speed up the process. It's just to let them have a safe space where they can learn, their body can learn, their nervous system can learn that it's okay to be feeling what they're feeling, instead of trying to squash it down or rush it. And if someone has had some traumatic losses, then I can be using gentle techniques that they don't have to use words. And I really loved what the Peaceful Heart Network people were saying on the interview was the trauma competent. And I thought, maybe grief competent could be a really
Yeah.
thing, how good is that? Is not going to the positive. Grief isn't something that I'm tapping with people to help them get rid of. I'm
I,
helping them grow with loss, with grief. We grow around it, we grow with it, which you've mentioned. Yeah.
when my mom's mom passed away, my mother was working in a grade school, and one of the fifth graders, for those not in the United States, 10-year-old, brought in a card. And in his very fifth grade way, in his very 10-year-old way, he said, "I hope you get through it." And for my mother, that was a real gift because
Mm.
she realized it wasn't getting over something. She recognized it was something she was, and we now know she's not getting even through it because it's always going to be a part of her. But like that gentle permission from a 10-year-old made a difference in recognizing that this is something I have to get over. And like the liberation that comes from, just like you're saying in the work that you're doing, just allowing the person to feel the thing that they're feeling. I don't have to do anything with this feeling, but just notice and honor the fact that I'm feeling this thing. And I'm curious, like as you present that to clients, I don't know if you like do that gently or if you explain that to them or what that looks like, but is there reticence from the people you work with who feel like they are wallowing in the grief, which is a different thing than being present to the grief?
Mm.
And I could be completely wrong on that. Like, if that's not your
Yeah,
experience, that's not your experience. That's fine. Yeah.
it, it's more for the ones who reach out to me. It may be that I've had people who've come to me straight after a very traumatic passing of a loved
Mhm.
one, and so that was very much just helping with the shock,
Gotcha.
just holding that space, and just the shock, just holding that. And I've had ones who were still grieving strongly after someone who passed 30 years ago, and they were aware that it was still activated in them, and that they wanted to be more at peace with that, the fact that it was 30 years down the line, but they were
Yeah.
still grieving. So the word wasn't wallowing, though. It was just,
Yeah.
I'm now ready to work with this. I'm
Yeah.
now ready to see what is ready to be released,
And
as in what's in the body,
yeah.
um,
And aren't we
and
lovely
anywhere.
as human? Yeah. Aren't we lovely as humans that we can be in a circumstance where we're stuck in grief and then we give ourselves the cudgel to beat ourselves up because we're staying stuck in it too long? Like there like we are so good at not being gentle with ourselves and what we are going through and where we are at.
That's right. And a big part of, I mean, EFT can be part of the recovery package, if you like, or part of the approach, because there's the basic things also of self-care. The ones that are tending to other family members, but
Right.
also are forgetting their own grief. Like they can forget self-care. So it's just reminding people to eat and
Yeah.
to connect, and it's okay to not be okay.
When a friend of mine's father passed away, I came over and her husband looked at me and just said, "Oh, thank God you're here. That means she's going to eat." And just being present in that way to help someone. Um, so as we engage with this, I think from your lived experience, talking about how there weren't tears, what are the ways that grief shows up in our life? Because I'm
Mhm.
guessing the fact that you had something that you felt was super, super atypical is less outside of the norm. You now realize it's less outside of the norm than it once was. What are these maybe even the kind of unexpected ways that grief is showing up in heavy ways?
Mm. Well, the pins and needles all over my body gave me a fright.
Yeah.
But it really was an impatience and intolerance for people. Like,
Yeah.
I had a very short fuse.
Hmm.
So it came out more in not being able to cope with very much. For me at that time, and it's no longer part of my life, but was leaning into distracting myself. So using alcohol
Yeah.
to just numb myself,
Yeah.
which is not probably that unique. What else? Yeah, I don't know. I've drawn a blank. So yeah, the typical ones of the foggy head. Oh, I thought so not having a really good grasp on how well I was actually doing. So I'd kind of lost my sense of how well was I really showing up, or was I even
Yeah.
making any sense? So I was putting myself back too quickly into doing. So that's another form of distraction, was I was not being present with myself to really feel all of it. And what I did find, which surprised me, and people will have had experience of this or not, is it's very busy in those early phases. People are coming around with meals and
Right.
there's lots of people dropping in, and then it stops. And 3 months down the line was when I needed people the most, and they all had got busy and got back to their lives. Not all of them, but
Yeah.
I was surprised that that's when I felt the real vacuum.
Yeah, and I'm guessing, particularly with a death of a loved one, in addition to like the people showing up, there is all of the details that go along with that sort of thing.
Mm.
Memorial services and writing thank you cards, and so there almost becomes a natural distraction built in of the mechanics of going through that particular process.
Mm.
I can remember when my dad's dad died. Like, he was he was a tavern owner in a small town in Western Illinois and one of those pillars of the community. And I watched at the wake for 2 days, watch my father and my uncle stand at the coffin and take care of everybody else in the community because of that particular focal point. And like, of course, there's a huge amount of busyness that goes along with all of that, which makes it easier for us to muscle through. And then I'm guessing on the other side, in addition to you needing the support and it not being there, also the distracting nature of the details in the short term, not only was there not the support, there was also now the confronting that in tangible, real ways that were harder to engage with because of the details before.
Mm. Mm.
So as folks are navigating this, what are things that, like, if there is already this presupposition that I'm supposed to do it in a particular way that we now know is wrong, if you could give folks permission, like if you could just like little permission slips for them, you're allowed to, it is good for you to, like, just so that they can look down and know what those things are in the moments of profound grief. And it doesn't even have to be grief that has happened in close proximity, because like you were saying, 30 years on it can still be there. What are some of the things that you would want to give someone that would make it easier for them to navigate that?
Mm. Great question. Probably the biggest thing I would say is to know that whatever you're feeling, like all your emotions, everything that is showing up for you is valid,
Hmm.
and to hold that loving, compassionate space for yourself. I would encourage staying connected with trusted people,
Hmm.
people who can bring you energy rather than feel like that they are taking, you know,
Yeah.
that they're taking energy, or because they're feeling awkward with grief, they're putting in the throwaway lines. Like, I had people say to me, "Oh, don't, it obviously wasn't meant to be. You can always make another." It's like
Right.
stuff like that. Yeah. So I would be selective with who you have, I guess. Remember to eat, rest,
Yeah.
and um, sometimes it was taking, I couldn't always think my way into right action. Sometimes I just had to do some of the automatic actions,
Mhm.
and then I would get a little bit of relief. But just knowing that it's okay to not be okay, and to really let people know if you are in danger, like if you really are, there's grief, and then it can be all consuming. Like if someone doesn't know, they're on their knees and they don't know how they're going to get up again.
Yeah.
There's certain protective things that are useful to have, to lean in, to be carried. And I found tapping was a really useful thing. I didn't have a lot of energy to do it, but I was able to do some, only because I've been tapping for sort of 25 years. And I feel like it's never too soon to start work on grief, whatever that looks like, but doing something towards helping. Having a little bit of a routine was helpful. Those sort of simple protective things. I also had a list of activities which I put on my fridge of helpful things people could do, because people come around and say, oh, let me know if there's anything I can do. And when I've got a foggy head, I couldn't even choose, like I couldn't think of anything. But I'd say, go and look at the list on the fridge. If there's anything there, go and do that. Because I just couldn't think. I couldn't process. So that was a good practical tip that I was given.
And so there are a couple of things in there that I want to underline that I think are really lovely. The first is you're talking about the people that we're spending time with. One of the lenses that I like to look through, I don't look through the lens of support. I look through the lens of support and protection. And so support are the things that build me up, and protection are the things that hold things at bay so I don't have to deal with them. And as you were describing that, have the appropriate people close to you and the people who aren't useful away from you in that particular way, like in my mind, I immediately saw support, protection, like, and I think that, like, it's particularly the type of people who are engaged in a conversation like this, that we have a tendency to be thoughtful people, and we have a tendency to be aware of how other people feel and how they're perceived, and you're offering me help and I want to take care of you and I want you to feel that particular way. That, again, this giving myself permission to go, this person being around me and the comments that they are making are not helpful for me. They're they're bad for me. And so giving yourself permission to be able to create that particular protection to keep them away. Like, we're not being horrible people when we're taking care of ourselves in that particular way. I might be responsible too. I'm not responsible for the people around me, particularly when I'm so diminished when I'm dealing with grief in that particular way. The other thing that I wanted to underline in there that I really loved was you mentioned the fact to start somewhere, but you didn't say, and we're going to do this really comprehensive work so we can get to the other side. Like, that was an invitation to engage with what I'm going through. It wasn't an opportunity to fix, to transform, to heal, to do all of the things with that, and being okay with the first step is just a connection inside of that. And I think that's a really lovely thought and sentiment as we engage with that.
And the connection with self, I feel like that's because obviously grief actually taught me how to live. It taught me.
That is, you're not allowed just to drop that bomb and walk. I would talk to me about that. I love that.
Oh,
so what do you mean by that?
Your response. I love your response. Really, it taught me so much, because there were times when big part of me didn't want to be here. That's the truth. There was a part of me that wanted to live, but there was a big part of me was this is too big. This is too big. But because I wanted to live, I want to be here, and I had people who I trusted who could be with me. It had me go inside and find a resilience and a courage and a love that I didn't even have words for. I mean, grief is the price we pay for loving, right? It's because we've had a connection. And so just as an aside to that, with the EFT, it's really important to not go to the positive, like this is not about that, because that's offensive. I'm just putting that in there.
Oh, no. We're stop for a second there. I don't want you to just put that in there. This is something else that we need to underline really, really clearly. Please talk a little bit more about the problem with us rushing to the positive reframe too quickly, because again, like I want total instantaneous eternal transformation every single time I sit down to tap. And so I want to get to the other side. So I want you to articulate that, like draw that out. Like that's not a throwaway. I want to hear more about that.
No, sorry if I'm putting in clangers here, and then I'm just sort of
no, they're not clangers. They're gems. No, these are the things I want to get a hold of. This is awesome.
So usually with EFT, we are taking someone from something to something, facilitating that. The person does the doing. Grief is very personal. It's, if we've lost something we truly treasure, they're not coming back in physical form. So there's still loss there. So to me, trying to add in positive to say, oh, well, they're in a better place. And these other lines that for some people it might be all right, but personally I found those really, it was like another load was added to me when I was already dealing with so much. Yeah. So the tapping is to just hold that space, as I say, and if we're allowed to let the emotions flow. So grief is asking me, it's not just one emotion, there's a whole lot there, and it comes in layers and it flows in and it flows out. If I put squash that down, all of that is still inside my body. Yeah. And so the tapping is to just let whatever is there flow. If we think of emotions like a straw, and if we kink the straw, it's just going to stay in there. If we are truly honoring for ourselves and for what we have lost, we let emotion, energy, motion, let emotion flow. And then we are truly honoring ourselves and how hard this is right now. For example, we're just truly showing compassion and love to ourselves, which is, I think of as a way of honoring also what we've lost. Because I'm sure our loved ones do not want to see us suffer. I'm sure of that. I don't know who people's loved ones are. I know my loved ones didn't want me to continue to suffer.
Yeah. And the reason why I stopped you there is like, I think it's something that is so valuable for us to hear inside of this particular thing, that one of the things that like I have been wrestling with a lot in the last 6 to 9 months is this idea of being of two minds. And oftentimes when we think of being of two minds, that's a negative thing. I could do this or I could do that. I'm of two minds. Mm-hmm. But I think there are other times where it's useful for us to be of two minds. Like this idea of like, in my grief, like you're talking about, like I only feel grief about the things that I love, or I only feel grief about the things that were significant. It's like it is this mirror of the magnitude of the grief reflects the magnitude of the loss because it was valuable to me. And I can be appreciative of the time I had with the person, but me being appreciative of the time I had with the person is not so that I'm replacing the grief and not feeling the grief. I get to be of two minds, that I'm allowed to, and it's healthy to, and it's natural for me to be devastated, and at the exact same time have those moments of going, oh my gosh, how lucky was I to have had this experience for a length of time. And me acknowledging that is not me trying to step out of my grief. Me acknowledging that is not me reframing my grief out of the way while I'm tapping. I am so lucky that I had them in my life. Like I want to engage with that idea authentically. Like, oh my gosh, how lucky was I? And I am devastated at the exact same time. And a lot, like, we're not trying to delete one with the other. They get to coexist in that lived experience. And I, again, kind-hearted incompetence, people saying, oh, you were just be appreciative of the fact that you had from the time you are. When they're doing it, they're trying to delete our grief out. Where what you're saying, I don't think is that at all.
That's right. And people can say things because they're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I could tell the people who were comfortable that some of the kindest words that someone said to me when they came to me after one of the losses was, I have no words. Can I sit here with you?
Mm-hmm.
They were, because then I didn't feel a responsibility to make them feel better. Because
Right.
I've got an old people pleasing part, trying to make people feel better, right?
Yeah.
So that was probably the most. They just sat and just, what can I, do you want a cup of tea? Just really simple things. But that part, so I can hold. I remember the first time I laughed, and grieving,
Mm-hmm.
and it felt weird. It's like, how can I be laughing, but I'm grieving? And then there was that part that was judging me that I was laughing and grieving. It got all mixed up.
Yeah. And I think, and the reason that we beat ourselves up in that way is because we have this preconceived notion about what proper and dignified grief looks like. And again, to going back to what you said at the very, very beginning, grief is messy. And the moment I give myself permission to be messy, then it makes sense that things are illogical. Then it makes sense that I'm having experiences that are outside of the norm because I'm giving myself permission to go, there's not some tidy, neat norm that I'm going to do inside of this. I think that, like, in our attempts to navigate this, we cling to standards just so that we have something to cling to because it is so unmooring. And the circumstance, like you're talking about, I've clung to a standard that it's inappropriate for me to be laughing happy in the moment of grief, creates that cycle of, I am doing it wrong, I'm beating myself up. And so now I don't have grief, but I have grief and a side of fries and a side of beating myself up and a side of shame and a side of, as I'm navigating that particular thing. And so, just giving folks permission to not have to do it a particular way.
That's it. There's no right way to grieve. There's just the person's individual way that they're doing grief.
And I'm curious, as you talk about the number of significant losses, were the grief processes the same or different for you?
They were different. And it was dependent on how the person passed.
Yeah.
So one was a pedestrian hit and killed. So there was no time to prepare for that.
Yeah.
There was one of nursing someone at home. So I was very intimately involved with the whole process. So there was the exhaustion of being the caregiver, but wouldn't have had it any other way.
Yeah.
There was the anticipator. So the future grief, the loss of potential. So losing a couple of little ones before they were here. So that has a different, because that's all about future and what never was.
Yeah.
The identity that never was. So they're all different. And I want to say, it probably sounds a bit weird. I'm grateful that I was able to be taught by grief so that I can now serve and help people.
Absolutely.
So I feel like none of that is, as I say, I look on it as being quite sacred work. So the different versions of what's showing up for me, I don't have to be the expert at all, and I'm not, but I certainly know, I've learned about questions to ask and a space to hold. And I've been tapping a long time, so I'm happy to blend those together.
And the reason why I asked that question was like, I think it's useful for us to recognize that, because what we do is we label something to make it manageable. And I am grieving the loss of a loved one. That is a package that becomes manageable. But as you articulated the different losses, the details and the context was radically different. And I think it's valuable for us to also recognize the fact that my grief is going to be messy and it's not necessarily going to be consistent. So there's one thing for I give myself permission to go, I don't have to follow these 5 stages of grief, but I could also see myself being liberated from that. And the second time I'm grieving a profound loss, I'm doing it differently. And I could be questioning myself like, well, Gene, you're grieving wrong because last time you grieved like A, and now you are grieving like B. And so I think it's really lovely and beautiful that you're able to recognize the nuances because of that context, which allowed you to experience things in a different way.
Like pet loss. So
Yeah.
disenfranchised grief is that people may have an opinion that you shouldn't be grieving a pet, but if you think about a pet, like that's someone you spend more time with
Yes,
than probably most
absolutely.
humans. And you know, that unconditional love, and that's big for a
Yeah.
lot of people. Yes.
And so yeah, it's and then the other piece is like I love the fact that you're talking about like this is a place that feels sacred to me. I was having a conversation with someone. We were talking about the Peaceful Heart Network, and very skilled tapping practitioner just flat out said to me, and I could not go there, like as in physically being present to that stuff. And so I do what I can to support their work. And so I think it's lovely that you have found like a place that feels comfortable at home for you to use your giftedness to walk in that particular way. Um,
Mm.
with the time that we have left, I would love it if like whatever you think is appropriate. What is some tapping that we could demonstrate that we could use? It doesn't have to like it can be about us processing stuff, or it could be giving us permission to do it in the way that we need to do it. Like I'm going to trust your guidance. What would be some good and useful stuff for us to do?
Um, well, because there's people on the call here. We've been talking about grief. Maybe it's activated something
Yeah.
in you. You know, if something has come to the surface or it was already at the surface. So what about if we do just a couple of tapping rounds just to honor if there has been anything that's been stirred up?
That would be perfect and appropriate.
And I will use mostly clinical EFT. I'm also going to bring in, I'll just say it before we start, the wrist points, which is the
Great.
pericardium 6 and the heart 7. So tapping the wrist points, they're particularly good for heart grief. So I
Okay.
like to add
Awesome.
those points in as well. So remembering that we're not tapping to kind of get rid of anything as such. We're just here to honor whatever is showing up for you, taking responsibility for yourself. And we'll just do some sneaking away, some statements just to honor what grief can bring up for you if it's come to the surface.
And everybody just tap
Even
along
though,
with this. And what I'm going to
yeah,
do is I'm going to be the echo, Lisa.
you be the echo. Okay, wonderful. All right. Even though all of this talk of grief
Even though all of this talk of grief
is bringing up something inside of me now,
is bringing up something inside of me now,
I'm letting my body know
I'm letting my body know
that I am safe right here, right now.
that I am safe right here, right now.
Even though part of me is stirred up,
Even though there's a part of me that is stirred up,
I choose to know that I'm supported
I choose to know that I am supported.
and I'm here tapping and breathing.
And I'm here tapping and breathing.
And I can work on something at another time.
And I can work on something at another time.
Even though all these emotions are coming up for me.
Even though all of these emotions are coming up for me.
I give myself permission to know
I give myself permission to know
that I am safe right here, right now.
that I am safe right here, right now.
And it's okay to feel what I'm feeling.
And it is okay for me to feel what I am feeling.
Top of head, I felt something.
I felt something.
I don't have to go into anything deeper right now.
I don't have to go into anything deeper right now.
I'm here tapping and breathing.
I'm here tapping and breathing.
I can just be here with myself now.
I can just be here with myself now.
I know that there's been emotions that have been stirred up.
I know that there are emotions that have been stirred up.
But I can put this in a nice, safe place.
But I can put this in a nice, safe place.
And I can come back to it when I'm ready.
And I can come back to it when I'm ready.
And to give it the time that it deserves.
And to give it the time that it deserves.
I don't have to rush anything here.
I don't have to rush anything here.
I can just be here with myself.
I can just be here with myself.
And I'm using tapping to tell my body.
And I'm using tapping to tell my body
that I am safe.
That I am safe.
Letting my nervous system know I'm okay.
Letting my nervous system know I'm okay.
I have love and compassion for myself.
I have love and compassion for myself.
And for everything I've been through.
And for everything that I have been through.
And I honor myself.
And I honor myself.
That this is a journey.
That this is a journey.
And I'm going to do this one day at a time.
And I'm going to do this one day at a time.
Okay. All right. And I like to, let's do the wrist points because I said I would, right? Taking a deep breath in and out. And then I like to use the hand over the heart and just really coming in. The heart is the first organ that starts with a little one in utero. And I like to think that's a good way to come home to our bodies. It's a good anchor. And just imagining breathing in and out through your heart, feeling the warmth of your hand over that area, and just reminds us, okay, I'm here. In this moment right now, I'm here. I'm okay.
In this moment right now, I'm here.
I'm okay. Yeah.
I'm okay.
All right.
Well, Lisa, I think you are exactly right when you describe this sort of work as sacred work. Like, there's some things that we do in transformation that are a little more whiz bang or a little flashier and growing our business, and all that stuff is super, super great. But like, this is such human work. And it just, I really appreciate like your dedication to the folks that you get to serve, but I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom and your insight with us as we try and navigate it. Like the fact that you've just given us so much permission to be messy and do it at our own pace and do it in the way that we need to do it. Like that's such a lovely gift. So I appreciate your time and I appreciate you sharing all that with us today.
Thank you, Jean. I've put together as a free offering a 7-day journal and tapping audios for people who do donate. So
absolutely. So everybody who donates, we got a whole bundle of stuff, and Lisa's put some really, really, really great stuff inside of it. So much so that like it is so valuable and it is so good. The team and I were having a conversation this morning. Was this for everybody or is this just a raffle gift? Like that is how powerful. And we figured that out. But like just us looking at that particular resource, that's how valuable it is. So everybody who makes a contribution is going to get access to that. If you need it today or if you need it at some point in the future, you're going to have access to that. So awesome. Wonderful. Excellent. Lisa, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jean, and to the team. All the best.
You bet. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. As you look at the screen right now, you can see a link to the entire playlist of every single conversation for previous 24 hours of tapping. There are over 120 presentations waiting for you. And please consider supporting the amazing work of the Peaceful Heart Network.